Comic. Comic.
Hi, everybody, it's Weird Wink Wilkinson laughing and scratching at you. How's everybody doing today? I got a little bit of a stiff neck. Let me just fix this up. Oh, that feels a lot better. Well, I got a great show for you today with some wonderful weird stuff. I feel so very weird.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained, things that most people don't want to know about. That is where we come in.
No human being would stack books like this.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, it looks like you're the one who needs to be taught a lesson, pal. Class is paying 101. The instructor's Casey Jones.
Look, I don't want to fight you.
Well, tough rocks, pal.
Do you want some coffee, Mr. Tully?
Do I?
Yes, have some.
Yes, have some.
It's a cup of coffee in the big time, yeah. Cup of coffee in the big time.
Hey, what do you say we both be independent together, huh?
I guess one person can make a difference. Enough said.
We have the tools, we have talent. It's Miller time.
Luminous beings, so we, not this fruit catcher.
Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow, or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Hey, these aren't my rules. Come to think of it, I don't have any rules.
Well, that's great. Either I have a monster in my kitchen or I'm completely crazy.
I don't think you're crazy.
You know something? Maybe I am insane. Maybe I am insane.
Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Rise to the top, oh yeah.
That's the nicest thing a dog can say about anybody.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point. You know what you need? You need a Brazilian plastic surgeon.
I've got one that can see.
Sometimes happens, someone has to deal with it, and who are you gonna call?
It's showtime.
All right. Hello out there. Welcome to Comic Book Radio, episode 302. I am your host for the time being, Peter Cimetti. And tonight, my guest is John Schell. We're going to be talking about flying without wings. What does that mean? Well, he's got a book called Wingless, which is currently funding on Kickstarter. The specific version of it is called Wingless Foul Play. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. I'm going to get him on here in just a minute. You probably have seen him before in the chat under the name of Critical Reads. And if you're not familiar with him and his work, hopefully tonight you will be. Before I get started, before I bring him on, I want to say hello to you guys. We got Comics for Life here. What's up? We got Spicer. What's up, Spicer? Good to see you. We got Dr. Mask here too. How's it going? We got Bent Box Comics here. And also John right there, Critical Reads in the chat. And we also have Dale Snyder here. That's an interesting quote there, Dale. All right. We got Ben here too. What's up, Ben? Good to see you. The darker half is here as well. What's up? And Cole King. How's it going, Cole? All right. So without further ado, actually, a little bit of ado. Little bit. I got to say, there's a campaign right now that I launched yesterday, 2 campaigns technically, One on Fund My Comic, one on Kickstarter. It's pretty much exactly the same campaign. We're bringing the Blood Moon graphic novel over to both. King Cryptid 10 to 13 is a combo campaign there with Blood Moon. Kickstarter's kicking the butt out of the Fund My Comic campaign. I expected it to be a little bit like a 3-to-1 ratio. There's 9 backers so far in Kickstarter, and there's 1 on Fund My Comic. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe the Fund My Comic audience is just not coming out for this book. Keep in mind, we've already funded the book on Indiegogo and on the Alterna site. Both, I think King Cryptid 10 to 13 is like over 400 backers. The Blood Moon campaign is like over 250. So I'm not expecting huge numbers because this is kind of a second chance, offering it on different platforms campaign sort of thing. But I expected 3 or 4 backers on Fund My Comic at this point, maybe 9 or 10 on Kickstarter. It's only been around a little bit more than a day. But one, Spicer, he is the one. The sole backer. I got $100 goal set on there. We're at 47 right now on Fund My Comic. Check it out if you want. The links, I don't have it posted in the description of the show tonight. It's just funny to me. I'm sorry. And I really appreciate you, Spicer, that you're the backer on Fund My Comic. But if Spicer wasn't there on Fund My Comic, there'd be no backers there on Fund My Comic, and it would just be a landslide win for Kickstarter. We'll see how it shakes out at the end of it. It's up for the rest of the month, but if you haven't had a chance yet to back it and you prefer Kickstarter over Fund My Comic or Fund My Comic over Kickstarter, or you don't like either and you'd rather go to the Alterna site, which is alternacomics.com, feel free. You do have your options. And the only reason we brought it to those 2 platforms is because we had people requesting to do so. Where the Fund My Comic backers have been that requested that we bring it there remains to be seen. But we'll see. There's still time. All right, without further ado, I promise now. Oh, there's Beampad and Citizen Ronan. A little bit more of ado. And what's up, guys? Good to see you. Okay, no more. None of this. Not saying hello to you guys. We're moving on. Let's bring on John Schell. What's up, John?
What's up, man? Guys, I implore you, go read King Cryptid. Like, legitimately. I've read quite a few comics. It's a great comic. The art is phenomenal. I love the story, man. Like, I honestly, as a reader, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, as I've stepped back from the creative aspect and try to get back into the mentality of being a reader of comics rather than a creator. Man, I love the book. And it's so refreshing. So if you like a good book, go back, and I'm telling you, you won't regret it.
I appreciate it. You did such a great video, and I didn't expect that you were going to do anything like that. I personally can't stand putting together pre-recorded videos, let alone really nicely edited ones like what you did. And so I really respect when someone can do it well, and when you're taking the time to do it for someone else out of the blue. Thank you so much, man. Really appreciated that. That was nice to see.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's like one of the first videos I've ever done like that. I wanted to do something in the indie space. I see that done for the mainstream, and I kind of took the same formula or structure, and I started looking into the creators that I know and part of the communities that I'm in, and I was like, I'm gonna do the same type of video but on them. The funny thing is, the issue is, I'm finding that the difference between mainstream comics and indie creators, or mainstream, they have a lot more rapport. They have a lot more to talk about. So your video actually had a lot of content and was pretty nice to make.
Yeah, you did kind of like a deep dive on me. It wasn't
Yeah.
just about King Cryptid. I was sort of shocked. Should I
Yeah.
be scared?
No, I learned a lot, and that's actually something that I'm enjoying, is I'm learning more about the creators. I'm in their space, right? I'm in the community, but I'm learning more about you guys than I even knew before, just by searching the history behind alternate MySpace. You literally started on MySpace.
Yeah.
I'm looking up articles, I'm looking up stuff like that. I'm like, man, and it's also inspirational. That is really what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to take the narrative. I'm trying to make a narrative out of the video, not just on you, but how can this be inspiring for like a creator or somebody who's in the space, you know? So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it kind of goes to what the title of the show is about. It's not necessarily just about the title of your book,
Mhm.
but I feel like we're all trying to fly without wings, you know? It
Uh,
feels a lot like, especially when you're, I mean, I don't even want to just say when you're like a small business owner or a creative person or an entrepreneur. I think all of us feel this way. You run to the edge of the cliff and you jump and you put together your parachute on the way down. I don't think any of us really knows everything of what we're doing. That's why imposter syndrome is always funny to me, because it's like, isn't that just life?
Yeah.
Isn't that just everybody with everything?
Yeah.
We don't all have the answers about anything, even if you're really well researched and everything else, and you read up on stuff and you deep dive into other people who did something similar. That all just goes out the window as soon as you start doing it, and then you're like, oh well, everyone's situation is different, and I'm no different than that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned imposter syndrome because I still struggle with it. Like on a daily basis, you know, with comics, I've struggled with it since the beginning. It's just really weird. I don't know. It's just like I'm not good enough, or I'm not putting out the right content. And, you know, I think the growth aspect of that is like the longer you're in it and the more mistakes you make, the more you start to get out of that. Like, you know, you can grow, and when you grow and you see the results of that, you start to look at your stuff and go, okay, I'm like, for instance, and this is really funny. So your last stream, you were talking about, you know, creators who submit to Alterna and you turn them down because, you know, either they're not there with their quality, they're not there with their story, or they're not getting, you know, episodic adventures, which is one of the big things you kind of touched on, character driven characters. So you, and I have it pulled up because it's funny, I submitted to Alterna in 2022, I believe. Let me see. I got it pulled up. It's
Wow,
funny.
that
So
feels so long ago,
yeah,
even
so
though
it
it
was
doesn't sound that long ago.
July 26th, 2022, and you turned me down, and I'm gonna read it because it was super professional. But this goes into where I'm at now. So, you said, "Hello, John. Thanks for taking the time to submit your comic to us. The artwork looks very nice, but unfortunately, the format of the story is not something that would be a good fit here. I'm looking for stories that are focused more on the episodic adventures of character or group characters, as opposed to something that revolves more around a specific plot or story. I wish you all the best of luck on your project. I'm sure it will be a hit." So I got that way back in the day, and I was
What
like,
was that
man,
for?
that was for The Last Wand. It was my first book I ever wrote, and I got to tell you, Pete, thank you for not taking the submission.
Okay, because I was gonna say there's no way that was for Wingless, because I
No,
think I
no,
honestly
no.
would have published Wingless, to be perfectly clear.
And that's where last night when you said it's so crazy, it kind of felt like a full circle. Because that was, you know, that's over 3 years ago now. And I felt like I needed to figure out where I was in the comic book space. That was my first book. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just throwing crap at a wall, just thinking maybe I'll get eyes on it. And you're right,
Yeah.
100%. Pitching it to you as like a publisher without really knowing what your books are about. I was kind of in the community, but I didn't really deep dive into what Alterna was about. And so, you know, I would have failed miserably, and I know I would have failed miserably. If I had published through you, I would not have come out with the second book because the second book didn't come out. I actually had to take the first one, split it into two books, and
Wow.
reformat the whole thing. So when you had said that, it hit me. I was like, okay, I need to look at focusing on character driven, you know, stories, and that is actually what led me to the other comics I've written, including Wingless. So last night when you said you thought the story was good, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy to me to show how far, like from 3 years ago, I just kept going, man. And luckily I got to where I'm at. And I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I have a lot to work on. But I'm super excited to where I at least got some kind of compliment in that form. It means a lot to me because it shows growth. And that's what I'm trying to do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, you did a great job. And for those that maybe missed it yesterday, I showed off because John ordered a print sample of his own comic through the newsprint campaign. So this is not the full size in terms of what the book would be like. It's usually a 12 by 18 sheet of paper with both sides of it being printed. This is just a 9 by 12 that I do as a test print before I print on the larger paper, just to save it and make sure I don't use it up.
So good.
But it's gorgeous. It's a really nice book. And it's not just a good looking book, because I've seen books that look like this with this kind of art, and then like the lettering is really bad, the writing's bad, and all of that beautiful art just gets destroyed by everything else that just doesn't match it. But
Yeah.
this, you got solid lettering, you got a really interesting story, and
Yeah.
I know you can't see the rest of the story here because it's just page one. But I found like every page, as I'm looking at it and putting it together, because I didn't read it when it was in digital. I got to read a lot of stuff digitally. I hate it. So I was like, I'm going to print this. I'm going to look at it enough when I'm putting it together, assembling it. I'll take a better look when I'm doing that. And I knew off of the test print that I wanted to kind of take my time and look at it. So it's sort of like, I kind of pirated your comic, I guess. But I printed it and put it together, and you had me turning pages, man, because it was good.
I appreciate it.
And so I read through the whole thing, and like you had me like those 2 or 3 last pages when it starts to get dark.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Yeah, that's just where my mind goes, man. And I originally I made a post. I originally tried to make it a kid's book, like, and it turned dark, and I just went, I couldn't get away from it. I don't know why. So I just went with it. I was like, if that's what the character
Yeah.
is gonna do, that's what I'm gonna do.
But I mean, to be fair though, like the fairy tales, folk tales, all this kind of stuff that's always been geared at kids is always pretty dark.
Don Bluth, man, that's
You
where
know?
my
Yeah.
childhood was, like, those dark stories. I mean, goodness gracious, The Land Before Time, and, his mom dies in, like, the first, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm a kid and my mom's letting me watch this."
Yeah.
But you need to learn those life lessons early, or you turn out like, the generation we have.
Yeah, and that's something I feel like what's happening right now in a lot of storytelling is we'll show the character go through an emotion, and and that will be the emotion that the audience should feel, and usually that's not the case. Just because a character is angry or upset doesn't necessarily mean the audience is going to feel that way. If a character, like comedy really shows this, if they're all just laughing at all the jokes, does that really mean the audience is going to laugh with them? If anything, you're kind of going to feel a little awkward. Most comedies, the joke lands and there's no laugh. It's a deadpan delivery.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happens when you're really fearing for a character and you really care about a character and you're angry, you're upset for them about what they're going through. Rarely is that character shown being upset. Usually something is occurring to that character, and you're in a position where, as a human being, you're finding yourself caring about what this character is going through. So it feels like there's a lot of storytelling now, and yours doesn't do that. Yours does what classic storytelling does, which is where it's showing what the characters are going through. You're learning about their relationships, their personalities, and then something happens to them. There's some tragic event, and they don't just sit there and cry or scream or whatever. They're too busy trying to figure out what the hell to do in this scenario. And as the audience, as the reader, you're going, "Oh my god, I hope they get through this." Like, or you're upset about what happened, or you're like, "What the hell did that villain just do to, so and so?" So I really enjoyed that part of it, because I find too much storytelling in the modern world now hits the emotion on the head of the character and expects that the audience will reciprocate and will mirror that emotion. And that's often not going to be the case. Like, I'm not going to get upset for a character who's sitting there and they're throwing tantrums and being upset. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I should be upset too because they're upset. I'm going to be more upset and feel more angry for a character that's going through something if I see that they're going through it a bit stoically, if I see that they're trying to make heads or tails out of a situation, if I see that they're panicked, if I see that they're sad, if I see that they're fearful. So it's interesting. And so you said Don Bluth was obviously a big influence on you. Are there other influences that are kind of hitting those emotional notes?
I honestly, it was the way Wingless came about is a multitude of things. I was born with some heart conditions and a cleft lip and palate, so I had my own deformities. I've had multiple surgeries, plastic surgery on my mouth and things like that. I wasn't able to play sports, at least I was told that. So a lot of things came into play with the story in my own life and the struggles I dealt with, being made fun of in school, not feeling adequate, imposter syndrome, things like that. And of course, Astro was born without wings. And Astro being a red cardinal, a lot of people are like, well, how did you come up with the red cardinal, the wings? Again, I remember I put a whole bunch of little things in my head that I've been playing around with for a long time into one story, and it was by like, okay, I want to do a animal book. And the reason why, I'll be transparent, and I want to say this, I'm not nothing against it, but there was a lot of TNA books out, right? And I felt like the strongest way to not go against them, but to like fight that. And because I personally, it's my personal thing, I just won't do those kinds of books. It's against just my personal morals. But I was like, animals, people relate to animals. No matter who you are, you relate to animals, right? And so like guys and people, of course, sex sells, that's why that's relatable, right? So I was like, this is a story. I can take my own personal things that I've dealt with in my life. I can take the red cardinal, which was my mom's favorite bird, which is where that came from. And then I was like, well, what disability can I give that bird? And I was like, well, he doesn't have wings. What do you think of when you think of a bird? Flying. That's what they're supposed to do. That's what their whole life is about, is flying, the freedom of flying. So I took that away from him, and I'm like, how is this character going to navigate that? And the way I did that was taking my own personal trials and the things I struggle with and the dark places I went, and being like, the doctors a lot of times try to put me in a box, like you won't be able to play sports. It was weird things too. Like I was going to be bald by the time I was 30. I'm 35. I'm not bald. I'm losing my hair. I'm not bald. But it was just a lot of those things. I was like, I didn't want to be in that box. I refused to be a victim of my circumstances. And so I took all those things that I've learned in life and I put them into Astro. And then, with his family, my parents are alive and all that jazz. So there's a lot of fantasy too. That's not reality, of course. But that's how that story came together. It was just a mixture of things. My life, that whole TNA thing, and just trying to do something that I felt like could be combative to that and still be successful. So I think that's really how it all came about. I'm pretty sure I was in my work truck looking out the window and saw a red cardinal, and that's when everything just popped. So
it's funny because I don't know if you know the significance, or at least the myth of a red cardinal showing up. Do you?
I do not.
Okay, so usually when a red cardinal just shows up and presents itself to you, the myth behind that is that it's a spirit sending you a message and letting you know that things are going to be okay. So it's funny that you turned that into a story, that was an inspiration for you.
That's cool. I didn't know that. And yeah, again, it was literally, I just remember looking out the window and seeing the bird, and all these things just clicked in my mind. I'm always, I mean, like every writer, you have a million stories and you're always thinking about things. And it was really the best stories I've written, and I feel like this is one of them, are the ones that just come to you so naturally that you pull out your phone and you can write 22 pages, even if it's a rough draft, within an hour. And that's what happened. And not just that, but I wrote the whole series out within like a week, and it's an 8-issue series. And I was like, holy crap, everything just fit. And I let the characters make the choices, and I let the consequences be because of their choices, and the whole way through. And in issue 2, it's a lot of Astro struggling with what happened. And there's a lot of explanation as to how, he can fight now and how he's learned how to do those things. So it's just, I wanted to follow him and everything he goes through. And like Crowbar. So I don't know if you looked at the villain Crowbar. My favorite villain I've written so far, he's a crow and his beak is forked like the end of a crowbar. So it all just came. I'm like, I don't know where it came from. I was like, I need a villain, a crow. Oh, cool. What can I add to him that is unique? Okay, maybe a forked beak. He's a crowbar, and it just all came together. And there you go. You got that villain, and he himself has a very detailed backstory, and there's reasons why. I mean, he attacked Central Park in issue 1. Like there's I think you can see in one of the panels he's controlling a raccoon through mind control, and I know that sounds crazy because we're talking about a bird book, but there's reasons for it. Go read the book or go back to the campaign, you'll be able to get it. But he says the son will pay for the sins of the father. So there's a whole backstory between Astro's father and Crowbar that we'll dive into throughout the series. So there's a lot of depth to it as well.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Even the thing with the crowbar too. The reason a crowbar is called a crowbar is because of the crow's feet.
Yep.
That mirror the crow bar.
Yep. And villain, you're a villain. What do villains use? They bonk
crowbars.
Crowbars. It just all came together, man.
I don't think I've actually ever used a crowbar for a less than nefarious purpose.
Exactly. It just happens, man.
Let's see. Hey, we got Kevin Thomas saying that I've got a male and female cardinal that visit my backyard feeder every day. Look at that. That's great.
Yeah.
We got Bentbox and Citizen Ronan loving the sampler there. Yeah. It's all done and printed and it's actually in the mail as of today. So
sweet.
You should actually have your sample book in a few days. Along with your Alternaween books too. Thank you for picking up some of those too, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I was telling my wife the other day, I was like, man, are we gonna be the cool guys on the street? Like, we're gonna have the alternate, like it's gonna be your books, but I'm gonna read them. I'm gonna read them first, but I'm gonna put them out there with the candy. My wife's like, well, you might have to buy more because they're gonna get wiped out. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So we're gonna look into that for next year. But and like this goes to what you're doing, dude. Like, I love that you're making comics like affordable and like even if it's newsprint, like for me, I feel like we're just so out of touch with the reader base. Like I want people to read comics because that's where I feel like they fall in love with comics. I don't want people to collect them I mean, don't get me wrong. That's perfectly fine if that's what you want to do, but I want people to read them. I don't want them to collect them for a cover and throw them in a shelf somewhere because that's not doing anything for the creative aspect and like pushing the medium forward. How is that guy gonna ever care about watching a movie if all he's doing is getting the book and throwing it in a closet somewhere? I want people to read, and it's hard to do that in the indie comic book scene because comic book prices, and I mean, you look at the prices on my campaign and where I've started my prices. I'm pricing out books for $4.50 to $5 through Comics Wellsprings and things like that for smaller print runs, because even on my variant covers, if I get one backer for a variant, I have a minimum of 25 books I got to buy. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? So I have to price and take all that stuff into account when putting together those campaigns. But going back to like what you're doing, I was like, man, this is brilliant. And I told, we talked in the back end about the pre-press aspect of it, because I felt kind of crappy. I was like, man, I'm that creator that doesn't have my files together. I don't have anything. I was like, can Peter Simeti save my files and just make them printable? But what you did by accepting that and doing the pre-press is you have now created a way for me to print through you for the future, right? For that book.
Yeah.
And for me, the investment in the pre-press is 100% worth the money and the quality that I know I'm going to get in the future. And
because I give you back, for people that don't know, when I do the pre-press on files, it's $5 a page, and then I give you back your files. So because after a month, I delete the files, and the only reason I keep them for a month is just in case there's a reprint issue when it's a larger run, or if someone wants to go to print within the next week or two after they get their proof or their sampler. And then we don't have to go through the whole song and dance of sending files back and forth. But I gave John his files back that were all prepped and everything else, so he has them ready to go. So it could be a year or two from now, I don't have his files, but he should have the files that I prepped, and he could just send them back to me, and we just go off to the races. But that's the thing, is that I expect people to not be on the ball with like adjusting the ink coverage and all the other little odds and ends that are kind of tougher to do and plan for with the newsprint. But your files at least were high res and they were sized correctly, and that's all I need. All I need are those two things. I could take care of the rest. It's when I get files in that it's like someone sending me like a 5x8 or a 16x25, or sometimes people will send me square files. And I'm just like, There's
Instagram.
there's a
Instagram.
whole there's a whole like guideline checklist of formatting and whatever that you got to do. At the very least, you got to send the files at high res and at the right size. And sometimes people will even send like 72 DPI because they're using web-based like JPEG files to send to me, and that's
Wow.
not going to print well. And then we're both not going to look good with what the product looks like. And I've said it before. You don't deserve it. You spend so much time and money and effort making the comic. The readers don't deserve it. No one benefits from that scenario, and this is like you're right there, you're at the finish line, and you just decide to crap the bed instead, and you don't cross the finish line, you sputter, you're dragged, and it's just a real big mess. And a lot of creators think like, oh yeah, I'm doing great, I did all these things, and then they send their files off to a printer that maybe sometimes doesn't take care of them.
Mm.
And I know I've gotten books from crowdfunding especially where I could tell this printer didn't look out for them, and they went ahead and printed really crappy low res, or the pages are cut really weird, and it's all because of that, because they're not going, hey, look, your files are off. You got to do this, and this, and it's unfortunate.
That's why I respect. That's why I respect like what you're doing, because I mean it's funny what publisher or who is gonna not accept the money to print a book based on the quality that you're providing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you're denying, hey, I'm not gonna print this on bad quality for both our sake, for you and me, because ultimately it does fall back on the creator. So to me, that was huge when you had mentioned that. And it's funny because you kind of put the fear of God in me. I'm going through the checklist and I'm like, all right, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I don't know if you can look at like the details of the files, but I'm over here in Canva. So like I don't know anything. Like I've tried to wrap my head around it, but I struggle with it a lot, and it frustrates me because I don't struggle with a lot of things in the technical side. So I was like, man, goodness gracious, I can't figure out the formatting. And then I saw like the you're like Y and K, blacks and stuff, and I'm like, what the heck is any of this? So I'm like, I'm over here on Canva. I'm like, okay, I know I have high res files I can import to Canva. I got your little, your format, your little PDF where I can overlay it, and see where everything falls in place. I was like, please, if I literally sat there, I was like, he's gonna roast me when I send this in. But I was like, you know what? If I don't do it, I'm not gonna ever be able to see if I can even get a book printed. So I'm excited. I'm happy I did. I'm happy that you were able to get it done. I felt pretty bad, but at the same time, like I feel like pre-press, like you taught me a lesson there too, right? We're always learning. Invest in pre-press, and like honestly invest in like the editing aspect of it. So you had mentioned you do like editing work as well, and I'm looking into doing that for like, I've done it a little bit for my books, but I'm looking to like finding someone I can trust that I'll pay the price to get it edited and get a good book put together for the reader, because that's what I want. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that,
yeah.
man.
No, I mean, it's something that I did when I was starting out, because I did my first book, which was horrible.
Mm.
And I did it thinking like, I'm gonna reinvent things here, and every page is gonna be a splash page, and I'm gonna do this and do that, and my artistic skills weren't up to chop. I mean, I was like 20, 21, and I had gone from painting and making charcoal drawings that were huge. Like the smallest was 24 by 36, and that's what I was doing for like 4 years. And now I'm trying to draw like on a comic, and even if I'm doing like 11 by 17s, it still feels really restrictive. And especially to go from painting to go back to doing pencil and ink and whatnot, it's a very different process. It's not as forgiving as painting is. So I'm going into it doing that. The comic is horrible. I don't know how I sold 200 copies. I
Oh,
just
dang,
must
better
have
than me.
hustled, and I don't know. Maybe they're worth something nowadays to people out there. But it's so that was a frustrating experience, but I learned a lot from it, because I learned I liked writing. I wanted to stick back to just the basics of lettering. I got too stupid and crazy with it. And then I wanted to hire someone to draw the next comic that I did. And that's exactly what I did. And I really haven't looked back since. And even though
Mm.
now, like, I feel like my art has gotten better, I still don't know about drawing a whole comic. I feel like I'd be better served just writing 4 or 5 more issues and
Yeah.
hiring people in the time that it would take me to actually draw one issue. So yeah, you're right. You learn every step of the way. You learn something. It's not
I
always
had
a
no
complete
idea
and
what I
total
was doing,
failure.
man. I had no idea. Like I just wrote in my phone. Like I wrote on pads growing up. I loved to tell stories, that was just I just really lived in them, right? You kind of escape in them, with trauma and things like that. And so that's what I did. And when I learned about comics, I was like, oh man. And I visualized everything in my head. I visualized everything. And I was like, this is the perfect medium to take my stories and put them into. And I had, like I said, I had no idea what I was doing. I went on Facebook and I found like a Facebook page, comic or writers seeking artists. And I just threw out, some crap that everybody made fun of at first because I had no idea what I was saying. It's a part of the process. I wish everybody wishes they knew what they know now. But at the same time, I think that you aren't going to be as good of as a creator if you don't go through all those trials. But I mean, there are those one-offs and things like that. But yeah, I did not know anything. I didn't know how to manage. I from work I know how to manage a team. I'm an irrigation manager. I manage 13 guys every single day. So
Wow.
I know like the management aspect of work.
What
So I
what
knew.
region of the country, if you
I'm
don't
in
mind me
Florida.
asking?
I'm in
Florida.
Florida. Yep.
Wow.
Good
Okay.
old freaking sunny, hot, 100+ degree weather. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. I feel bad for my guys. Um, but yeah, so I kind of knew that, and so I took those things from the business side of things that I know, and I put together, an artist, a colorist. And the first book I did, I got all the wrong size pages in because I think the artists were new too. I don't think they knew what they were doing. So I should say technically the first book I ever did, I don't think I've ever even really shown it. Like I actually have a whole zombie story. It's called RT7, Response Team 7, and it's a zombie story. I did it. I found a guy in the Philippines, and then I found somebody who did colors, and it's all done. There's no letters to it. I spent like $3,000 on it, and I never think I showed it to somebody
Wow.
because when I went to go get it formatted and when I went to get it like actually put into comic, the person I sent it to, he was a really well-known editor, and he's like, dude, your files are jacked. Like I don't even know how
That's
to
what I'm
save
talking
these
about.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I don't even know how to save these. So I was like, crap. I almost gave up. Like I think I took like 6 months, and I was like, no, I gotta make comics. Like it was in my blood at that point. And so I made, the last one, which was also, it was successful on Kickstarter. I think we had 132 backers. It was like $3,200 or something like that for a first campaign, but I think I spent like almost 13 grand on it. So that was not good. But again, another learning experience. Like, why did I try to go so big at first? Why didn't I start with like black and white comics, right? Why didn't I start with like following one character? And like you had said in that email, like my first submission, I had way too many characters that for my first comic, I can't explore every single character. It was way too much for me. So I would say, my wife has told this to me, is like you need to have scalability. Don't just jump to being, one of the best writers there are, right? Start at the beginning and work your way up. And so I've learned a lot on the way. I'm sure you have in the publishing, and even with you, man. Like, so I don't know. You've had Chris O'Hara on with Binbox Comics.
Yep.
So I was co-founder of the company with him. And I took a step back. We're still really good friends, best friends, but I realized I did not personally want to be a publisher. I wanted to be a creator. I wanted to create my comics. I wanted to self-publish, right? And so I took a step back and I published through Bentbox. I don't know how long I will in the long term, but for now, that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to help him support his growth. And I have a lot of books other than Wingless. I think I'm on my 6th book now. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So it's just, I, I I have 6 books. That's kind of crazy to say, and I'm sorry if I'm going long-winded.
6 books or 6 titles?
So I have the last one. I have Worlds Forgotten. I have Wingless. I have Heathen, and I have Blossom. So five titles. So 5 titles. Yep.
Wow.
So and the ones in between were also huge learning experiences too. Like Heathen was my story about going black and white. I found an artist that can do a manga style art for like a pretty cheap, and I had this really crazy story about a kid who accidentally receives the powers of death, but his sister has cancer, And so he's supposed to, fulfill the obligations of death, but he's got to kill his sister. So he decides to open up the spiritual world and start going after the demons that have created these sicknesses. And it completely just like disrupts the spiritual world, So that was a whole story. That's called Heathen. And like
Sounds good.
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. And like, I don't know, I'm going long-winded with stuff because I get so excited about
Hey,
I
you're
get
the
so
guest, man. You go as long-winded as you want.
I get excited about it, but again, I don't know if you know, and but Blossom is dedicated to my daughter. So my daughter passed away unexpectedly
Oh,
at
I'm so
birth.
sorry to hear
No,
that.
and I for the first time in my life, and I guess in a way I try to tell everybody this, but in the first time in my life, I had always fought against the victim mentality, because I had all the issues in my life and I was made fun of. I had all the surgeries, all this jazz, and I never wanted to be a victim. But for the first time in my life, when that happened, I gave up. I just it consumed me. I was the victim of circumstance. I was the victim of this world and the cruel things that it can give you, and it destroyed me in my comic book career for two reasons. The first one is, instead of going to drugs and like getting consumed with that, I got really heavily invested in comics and I went in debt. And I'll be transparent. I went in major debt, spending money on comics and creating comics because I escaped. That's where I escaped to. Um, and I didn't know how to market it because I came to this point where I had major imposter syndrome. I didn't know how to socialize anymore. I had no idea how to talk to people. It was this weird place. And I was, luckily, it's been almost a year now, I was able to get out of that victim mentality again. I almost took my own life, and I was in the woods. I was on a hunting trip, and I started asking questions, things that I was so angry. When you're in your head and you're just yelling and you're so angry about life and you can't think about anything else, I had let it consume me in that bitterness. And I was in the woods and I started asking questions. And I come from a faith background, and I was asking God all these questions, why and why. And what I started to realize is I had never given him room to speak. I had never given anyone room to speak. I was just so focused in the self-pity and the anger and the victim mentality, that when I started listening, the things that I was hearing and just changed me. And my wife and we were on the brink of a divorce. Like we were literally. I came home and it was insane. She came in the room. I laid down. This is from my hunting trip, and she sat on the bed and she said, "Are we actually going to do this? Are we going to get a divorce?" And dude, I don't know. I looked at her and I said, "Babe, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm changed. Something happened to me." And I was able to get out of the space. And I apologized to her. We grieve so differently from that. She grieved outwardly, and I put everything in a very dark corner and never wanted to look at it. But I was always so angry and so bitter. And I wrote Blossom. And what's phenomenal about Blossom, my other story, is Blossom was written in memory of my daughter and how she saved my life and how she actually helped me get out of that horrible mental state, because we all need somebody in our life to save us, to be there for us even when no one else is. And in that time frame of my life, it was always her. And so there's so many things along my journey of creating comics that have brought me here. And I want to be inspirational to people more than I even care about comics, because at the end of the day, we're humans, and comics are great, but comics are comics, and we got to live our lives. We got to, you know what I'm saying? And I know I'm pouring my heart out here, but
Well, I mean, storytelling it's a tool that you can use to either build or destroy,
yeah,
and we can use it to build each other up, to inspire each other, or we can use it to send each other into the furnaces.
yeah, it can go either way, and it goes hard either way. There's no real middle ground there. And yeah, I really believe, and I'm so happy to be here. And my first live stream I was on in the past 4 years. It was 4 years, August 23rd. So just recently we celebrated her 4th year anniversary. But it was 4 years to where I'm at now. And I got my first stream again with Michael Bancroft for another book that I had done a couple months back. And I've now been ever since that this past October when I had those conversations, and really I feel like a huge change in me. And I'm not gonna lie, I still struggle daily. I'm sure we all struggle with, you know, these feelings of inadequacy, like these feelings of just like depression. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of horrible things in life. The one thing I can say is, if you can get out of that victim mentality and know that people truly care about you and love you, what happens, and I learned this, is you get in this dark corner and you think that nobody cares about you, but you are so wrong, because there are so many people that do care about you. That's the lie, is that you're alone, because
because you
you
start
are telling
isolating
yourself.
yourself.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And I tell everybody that if you feel like you're in that corner, if you feel like you're, you know, in that place, man, reach out to somebody, or just see if they'll help you. You know, I'm telling you, it was a couple months later, after I had this like revelation that, I don't know, if you remember, but we had a fellow comic book creator. He had taken his own life, and it was super hard for me to see, because the thing I saw on all of the comments were how loved he was. And I can't imagine being in a place of so much pain where you would do that, but you didn't know. You didn't know that so many people cared for you and loved you. And I think that's the biggest lie, is you think that nobody cares. But at the end of the day, people do all have their own lives. But in a heartbeat, we would be there for one another. I believe that. I have to believe that. If I don't, then I don't know what the point of life is, and being human. So I don't know. I just went. I'm so sorry. I went off on a tangent on that, but I think it's part of the creative process, over the years in writing comics, that have brought me to where I'm at. And I just encourage anybody who is failing to not take it as a failure, but a learning, like a learning experience, how you can do better, and reach out to people have been successful, and hopefully they'll help you. But reach out to people, and I'm here, you know, if you want to talk or anything like that. But I just wanted to throw that out there. It's part of the journey, so I don't even know how we got here.
Hey man, you know, this is your time. So whatever you want to discuss, whatever you got to get off your chest,
Oh,
feel
I
free.
appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I love stuff like this though. I love when people can see how much we're all alike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we
Yeah.
spend so much time being told how different we are, and that we should probably all hate each other because of those
Yeah.
differences. But the truth is that we have way more in common in
Yeah.
terms of especially our experiences. We might not have like a one-to-one type of thing, but we all have felt in a place of darkness at some point in time, you know, or no hope, or how you
Yeah.
going to dig yourself out of this one. And you know, it's crazy how many people have gone through that, but yet when you go through it, if you're anything like what you've been talking about, I've gone through that too. You sit there and think you're the only person who's ever felt this way.
Exactly.
No one would understand. What's the
Mhm.
point of telling anybody? What's the point of talking about this? You know,
That's the
and you
lie.
and you just shoulder that burden
Mhm.
until sometimes it encompasses you, and then
Yeah.
that's it. Game
That's it.
over.
Yeah.
But it
Talking
doesn't
about
have
it
to
out
be
loud
that way.
helps. Yeah, I talking about it out loud helps, man. And like, I it's just like you said, it's that dark corner where you feel like you're alone, and you know, you think the worst thing in life has happened to you, and there are horrible things that happen to people, man. Horrible things have happened to me, and things I don't talk about. But at the end of the day, like, this is your life. Like, you know, or what are you going to make of it? And for me, what brings me joy is helping other people. Like, after, you know, Ari passed, I, everything in my life that I thought had meaning no longer had meaning. You know, it was like, whoa,
Yeah,
like
it gives you a different
pet
perspective.
the petty fight. Well, you know, when you look at her life and it was cut so short, you're like, man, she didn't have a chance to live. But here I am as a human being wanting to take my own life with the world at my fingertips. At any day I can change it. At any day I can make a difference for somebody else, or something like that. And that's where I remember I got really heavily into drinking after, and I never drank. I didn't drink my whole life. I got really heavily. And I remember looking in the mirror one day, and I was looking at myself, and I was like, you pitiful human being, you're sitting here in self-pity crying about and destroying your life because of what happened to your daughter, and she didn't even have a chance to make it to life, right? She didn't have a chance to live. So I was like, how disrespectful is that to her memory? And that's where I took that and I was like, no, I need to do things in memory of her, and I need to help people in memory of her. And that's what created my new drive and was part of the revelation I had and the change I had. So
Yeah, I mean, that's how you honor those that are gone,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know.
Yeah.
What's the time frame between the passing of your daughter and that visit from the cardinal that gave you inspiration?
About 2.5 years. It was about 2.5 years. It was weird because I struggled with panic attacks. That's something I never struggled with in my life. I actually made fun of them, full transparency. I thought, oh, you can't. I was one of those people that was like very control yourself, control your emotions, control your mind. You can't feel emotions. I was raised that way, and in a way, I think you should be that way. You should have control of your emotions and your mind, but in a healthy manner. And I had a panic attack, and it's because I didn't face the music. Like I said, I put the whole situation with my daughter in a dark corner. I never faced it, and then one day an employee, a member, brought his daughter in and was introducing her young daughter. And I met her and I was fine. And then he walked away. And then all of a sudden I thought I was having a heart attack. And I was like, man, I can't breathe. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I had no idea what was happening to me. So I went to the hospital thinking I was dying, texting my wife. I said, babe, I love you. I don't think I'm going to make it. And it was a panic attack. And I felt really ridiculous after I found that. But for the first time in my life, I was so humbled. I was so humbled by that because it made me feel human again. Like, it honestly made me feel human. I was like, for so long, you feel like a robot. And I was like, man, I felt something in this moment. And I'm going to answer your question and go around to it, but it was because of the panic attacks that I got deeper into writing. And that's when I saw the cardinal. I had written Blossom actually during a panic attack, my second one. I've only had two ever. The second one I was prepared for and I understood what was happening. So I started writing and I wrote Blossom within that panic attack. By the time I was done writing Blossom, I was out of that and I had worked through that. And but in between that time of my first panic attack and my second panic attack is when I started writing Wingless. So it was about that 2.5 year mark. We just had our 4-year anniversary, so it was about that 2-year mark.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy with the timing.
Yeah.
We got a couple people in the chat that have some kind words to say here. Ben says, very inspiring story, man.
Thank you, man.
10-8 Comics says, only in chat for a second to comment this. Thanks, John. Thanks for sharing. Needed to hear this. Much love, brother.
That means everything to me, man.
And then from a little bit earlier with your comments, we got Cole saying, brother, you are speaking the truth. Way too many people try to start swinging for the fences and don't think about the steps to get there.
Yeah.
And also we got, let's see, we got Kevin Thomas saying, back to my copy.
Oh,
looks
sweet.
like a good series, John.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
And Andrew saying, Schell, awesome series with Wingless. I pledged issue number 1 and it was delivered months ago. Great concept. I pledged for issue number 2. Looks great.
Oh, heck yeah, Andrew. Thank you, man. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool, man. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome to see, people again. You share who you are. You dig deep and you bring out something that maybe you normally wouldn't find on a show called Comic Book Radio. But you never know. It resonates, and it's the same thing. That's why good stories resonate, is because of that. Because we all have these kinds of connections that we're maybe not really aware of. But we go, yeah, I know where you're coming from. I know what that feels like.
We focus way too much on what we don't connect on, and we don't. That's what blinds us to what we do connect on. And I see that in the comic book space. It's super discouraging. It's one of the reasons I took a step back from the creative space and was like, you know what, I want to be a reader. I want to be part of the community again as just somebody who's in the comments talking to people. because I really got discouraged. My whole feed, I'm trying to get out of it, but it's all just it's bicker back and forth about everything, and like
Yeah.
going back to nothing had meaning anymore. Like arguing like that is just. I'm not saying there's not merit in it. Like drama, it's fun, whatever. People can like it, but for me, it's really hard to see a space that I want to succeed be so hateful to one another. It's like the ship is sinking. Back when I played sports, my coach used to always say, like, a house divided among itself will crumble. It's just that you have to work as a team. If we want indie comics to be successful, if we want comics to get back to what they were, in the Bronze Age, then we cannot be acting like we are right now. There's just no way.
Why do you think that happens? Why do you think at large? Because there are people obviously where they're not partaking, or they're not going full tilt into it, and they at least have one foot in one side and the other foot in the other. And then there's some that just are completely checked out, or some that are completely all in. Why do you think that is? Why do you think people react in that kind of a way?
That's a good question. I don't want to be too quick to answer, but I don't know. I think it comes down to your person. I really think it comes down to your personal life. I think outside of comics, who we are as people, what we've gone through, the anger, the bitterness that we deal with personally, it bleeds over into when we want to feed off of it, right? We start to latch on to those things. So we find our cliques and the communities that we resonate with, whether or not it's putting down other creators. It's like it's a personal issue. I think that if we looked at it from the perspective of like our love for comics and respect, I mean, that's a huge one. Of course, you need to respect each other. It's If you don't agree on something, the least you can do is respect the other person and move on. And if the person doesn't respect you, guess what? That's their problem. That's not your problem. You have done your part as a good human being, and you've respected that person, and you've moved on. But I think that the people who are in these communities that are like really angry, or they're always hateful, or they're always looking for the next argument, or they're all trying to start something, it's because of their own their life. And that's actually one of the reasons why I sympathize for them. It's one of the reasons why I don't just hate them right away. It's because I know that feeling. I've been there. As a human, I've been there. And I'm like, I might say I DM you and I'm like, hey man, it's not my place, but I hope everything's going well for you. I hope life is good for you. I've gotten messages back where like, shut up, MF, or blah blah blah, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I hope the best for you, but I'm gonna move on, and that's my mentality about it. But I think like, back to your question, why do people? I think that it's their own personal lives, man. It's where they're at in life that draws them to that type of entertainment. So yeah, it's unfortunate. I think there's a lot of aspects in our world, right? Between our economy, credit card debt is the highest it's ever been in history. People are struggling financially. That's stressful, and that causes you to want to find a release. And I mean, the comic book industry isn't really well known for going to the gym, so they're looking for a community that they can feed off of and get angry with and put down other people. You don't have to like something, dude, but I think you should help and be part of the constructive criticism, and take constructive criticism as a creator too, to grow and to push the medium forward. Do you love comics, or do you love the drama? Do you love the hatred part of it? That's my question.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to answer, and I kind of put you in a rough spot there, so I do apologize, because it
No,
is
not at all.
sort of a hot button loaded topic to kind of size up psychologically where people might be at, that draws them to a certain kind of behavior or way of thinking.
Yeah.
Especially when these are the kinds of people also that you're trying to say, hey, buy my book.
Yeah, that's
So,
the thing.
but what I've tried to give it a very similar assessment to how you're doing it. I'm not really someone that's gonna go out and really try to finger wag. I've done that a couple times before in the past over the course of the past 7 or 8 years, and I always feel like, "Pete, you should just shut the hell up." It's like, just look in the mirror and work on yourself. Um, and I do have a tendency to complain about the complainers.
Well, I mean, I don't blame you, man. It's hard
But
not to.
yeah, but it's one of those things where, the more as time goes on, I'm like, let me just focus on what I got to do,
Mm,
and focus on working on my faults, which are many, and trying to address those issues, because at the heart of it, I think that's really the case of what we see all the bickering to be, is people not wanting to work on
mm,
what's going on. It's a nice distraction,
yes.
and it's a
Yeah.
nice way to kind of point the finger at someone else instead of working on yourself, which is
Yeah.
way harder to do. Sometimes it's impossible to do depending what the situation is. So it's easier to kind of laugh at someone else stumbling or to critique them, but the last thing I think the world needs is another a-hole. So I try not to go down that path anymore.
Well, you're
Because
constructive criticism, though. You
well,
come
I
from a
mean,
different
there's
part.
been times I'm not a saint, there's
Yeah.
been times where I've had a snide comment to make to somebody that I thought was being a total jackass or whatever it might be within the realm of
We've all
comics.
done it.
And it doesn't get you anything but grief. And some
Mm,
people enjoy that attention. I don't enjoy that attention.
mm,
Um, and then I eventually stopped doing that because I started thinking, well, why the hell am I doing that? Because this doesn't really contribute anything positive to the conversation. And it certainly didn't do anything positive for me.
mhm.
I don't feel good after an interaction like that. And then at the end of the day, it's not going to really win me anybody that I think I really would want to win, because I'm not that person
Exactly.
consistently. So they're gonna
Exactly.
go, well, why isn't he just picking on everyone right now? Why did yeah, what about this guy? What about that guy?
You only got one?
And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that thing that one person said was stupid, and that's why it kind of hit a nerve.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna run around like, again, finger wagging at everybody, saying, oh, why are you thinking this? Why are you saying that? Why are you doing,
Yeah.
because I have things to do too.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
also just doesn't end up feeling good.
Yeah.
It feels better for me when I have like a conversation like this with you, or when I'm interacting with other people out there that are more of a like mind on that respect, where you got a healthy dose of maybe both
Mhm.
feelings, or at
Mhm.
least you're trying to put out something positive, and I like
Yeah.
that. So I'm more drawn to that, and that's been my focus for a couple of years at least now.
I've seen that.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's a really tough landscape to kind of navigate,
Yeah.
and especially on social media, because of the fact that the algorithm sort of feeds you
Yeah.
into a lot of little weird, it kind of
Clips.
it kind
Yeah.
of sends little demons after you, that
Yeah.
keep on whispering in your ear. What do you think about that? Doesn't that make you mad? It feels very strange when you
100%.
go
Yeah.
through the timeline, and it's tough because we need more people putting more positive stuff out there, even if it's just
Mhm.
sharing art, even if it's just talking about storytelling, even if it doesn't have to be positive in the way of like cheerleading for something, but it doesn't need to be just a constant stream of, I hate this thing's dumb, that looks stupid, this is awful, because I feel like that kind of stuff, it drowns out a lot of things,
Mm.
and you end up feeling discouraged, and you don't want to, like, I've talked to my own guys at Alterna a lot of the time. A bunch of them pretty much were like, I don't want to do social media anymore because it's so
Mm.
negative. And I've tried as much as I can, and I haven't really succeeded fully with people who feel this way. But I've tried to be like, look, I get it, but put something positive out there. What do you want to see out there?
Oh, exactly.
Would you like to see
Exactly.
more comic art? Would you like to see more conversation about some kind of whatever? Put that out there, because we need more of that.
Yeah.
If all we have is negative whatever out there, that's all that we're really going to get. And everyone who would rather see something else is going to just go away,
Yeah.
and they're going to be gone forever. And I don't know if we ever get them back. But
Yeah.
it usually doesn't work. I try having that conversation, and they're like, "Nah, this is just too crappy out here."
It's like walking on eggshells, you know. When I first started, man, you know, it was like, where do I go? Like, if I talk to this person, all these other people are gonna hate me. And if I talk to the person, and I'm like, man, this isn't about comics. This is about the hatred for each other, for what reasons and whatnot. I have no problem with constructive criticism. I have no problem with, hey,
Yeah,
I read this book and I did not like it. I've read a lot of indie books that I did not like. I thought they were poorly done. But if you are willing to take that and, let's say, not do a horrible review on it, because what's the point? But to go and be like, hey, I read the book, man. I like this. I didn't like this. I think it would be better here. My own personal opinions, man. I hope nothing but the best. That's respect. That's human nature. And I truly believe that there are more people like that out there, but they're the silent majority. I really truly believe there are a lot of people like us
yep,
out there, and I
yeah,
refuse to. I really do. I just think that they're quiet. They're just like us. They're quiet. They don't want to be involved in that. They'll watch it from afar, but I mean, that's
yeah.
the people I want in my community. It's the people that
My
I want reading my books.
my biggest fear with like the critic culture, because we were kind of going all over the place. We had like cancel culture, we've got
Hmm.
critic culture, we've got outrage culture, and my biggest fear with like the outrage slash critic culture of like the tendency to harp on the things you don't like, the tendency to point out the flaws all the time, all of that kind of stuff, the negative aspect of it is that eventually we don't know actually why something is good anymore. We just
Hmm.
know why it's bad.
Yep.
And if we don't actually pinpoint the reasons as to why something is good, why it works, like when I was talking about storytelling earlier, of like how modern storytelling and there's a lot of things that go like this, and a lot of classic storytelling, you felt a certain way for the characters and for the story because of what they were going through. You didn't feel what they felt
Yeah.
necessarily. You felt for them.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like there's a lot of things going on where we know when something looks like crap and we know when it's not that good and we can point out the flaws, but far less of the time, I think we're actually looking at something and going, but this would make it great.
Yeah.
This would make it good. If they did this, that would be better. Like there's just here's the problem, here's the problem, here's the problem, and no one's saying this would be a solution. And
Yeah.
I think as we kind of get deeper and deeper into this aspect of social media and the outrage critic culture that we have, it turns into the up and comers. Maybe they don't even know what it's like, okay, I know that's bad, this is bad, or whatever. It's like, okay, it's woke, so it's bad. Well, if it's not woke, does that mean it's good? Because
Exactly.
there's a lot of stuff that's not woke that's garbage.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
and there's like this bar that's been set where it goes, well, if it ain't woke, don't fix it. But it's
Yeah.
like a lot of times you need to fix it because
Hmm.
just because it's not woke doesn't mean it's good.
Exactly.
You know, so it's one of those things where the bar has been lowered to the degree where it feels like, how do you get that to be better? And you go, well, here it's not the bad thing. And it's like, yeah, but not the bad thing doesn't mean it's the good thing.
Exactly, dude. It's so true. I kind of look back. My parents didn't let me listen to rock music growing up, and I couldn't understand because rock music had like a bad rapport or whatever from the faith background. But I remember bringing it to my dad, and I remember saying, "Hey, I found a rock CD that has nothing to do with everything you've told me." And he listened to that CD and he let me listen to rock music if it was approved through him. But it was that mentality of just because it's rock, it's evil. Instead of the mentality of it can have guitars and drums but it can mean something still. And just like you said, man, it's like we put everything in a box and then all of a sudden we don't know what's what anymore. Like, oh,
And then the
yeah.
cognitive dissonance drives you nuts because you're like, wait, I thought this thing was supposed to be like this.
Yes.
You know, and
Yep.
then you're like, well, I'm going to change my viewpoint. I'm going to move the goalposts because it feels too uncomfortable to admit that that can be that. It's not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And
You have to open your mind.
instead of doing that, you know, you kind of shift a bit and go, okay, now it's bad again. And you're like, well, now you're kind of becoming hypocritical in order to say that that's bad still.
Yeah.
When, why can't you just admit that, well, maybe I was wrong about that,
What do you like? You know? What do you like? Like, that's the thing, is like, at the end of the day, I think a lot of things we dislike is because we know other people dislike it, or it's been told to us. We don't question anything, and I'm not going to get into that conversation, but we should question our morals, our beliefs, everything way more, because I think you will learn who you are real quick when you start questioning
I think, yeah,
your life.
I
Yeah.
think we definitely need to question, how do they serve us? In terms of your morals, your beliefs.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
agree.
doing like rules for thee, not for me? Is it a
Exactly.
hypocritical stance? All this kind of stuff. And it's like this whole conversation has kind of been about what basically the title of the show is. It's Flying Without Wings, is basically the concept of you're just trying to figure shit out. You're just trying to
life, man.
It's yeah, and it's okay. Like, I get it when people are presented with a new viewpoint, new perspective, new evidence on something. Most people will go, "Oh, okay, my opinion on that has now changed because I have all this new stuff presented to me that kind of says all the old stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a misconception, or that was something that I just maybe heard from someone else, and that's why I believed whatever that was." But it is strange because we do see that across the board a lot lately, and it feels like a weird intentional thing of don't question stuff, just listen to the expert, listen to the
Yeah.
sometimes self-proclaimed authority. Because I'll tell people all the time too that always look to me as like some kind of an authority figure. I'm like, I'm just trying to figure stuff out. Maybe I have more experience than the person who thinks I'm an authority figure, but I don't view myself as an authority figure. When I tell someone, "Hey, follow the guidelines," I'm not saying follow the guidelines because I've decreed that this is the greatest way to do it. It's like, no, because this is what's going to work. If
Yeah.
you don't follow those formats and guidelines for your files, it's not going to print good.
Yeah.
And I want it to print good. But it's not like I'm saying, there's a morality judgment on you if you don't follow those guidelines, because you're going against my authority or whatever. And I feel like a lot of the time there is like this weird kind of thing when it comes to stuff that's near and dear to us, like storytelling, where we feel like there is some kind of an ownership on it. We all feel this way. I think it's natural because of the fact that it means something to us. But at the same time, I find that there's a lot of creators that don't take that same fervor that they have for something else that's been done wrong and apply those standards to the work that they're making. And that's what drives me nuts, is
Yeah.
when I see someone that they're tearing apart whatever, and it might be justified. It often is. But then when you look at the work they're doing, you're like,
Yeah.
you sure you think you're better than what they're doing?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
put that criticism on yourself a little bit, pump the brakes on the other guy and work on your own stuff.
I learned a lot about the human race. We tend to call out or get we are the things we are most passionate about when it comes to those things are usually the things we struggle with the most. And so it's funny because I've taken that, like, I work in irrigation, and a lot of homeowners, my goodness, customer service, you know better than most. People can be really just jerks, and I've learned to look at those people and understand them in a way that wouldn't be able to if I hadn't gone through a lot of the personal issues I have. But you look at them and you're like, man, like, I see you as a human being, and when you see, I'm telling you, dude, there's something so special about looking each other in the eye, and that guy's yelling at you in the face, and you go, "Hey, man, are you doing all right?" And he looks at you and goes, "Holy shit, you're the first person in 15 years that have asked me how I'm doing." You see what I'm saying? We have lost the
Yeah.
human connection.
Yeah.
It's like we have, and behind the internet, I mean, goodness, we can type all day behind the internet, be the buffest guy ever. You walk out, on a screen, and you're the scrawny guy that get beat up in a heartbeat. But we've just learned to hide behind a lot of things, and I don't know. And it's all part of this whole new perspective I've had since, my daughter's passing. I've looked at life so differently now. And it was hard for a while. When you have somebody yelling at you for a tiny brown patch in their grass and all you can think about is how horrible your life is right now, it's hard to look past them being just a jerk. But then if you can really overcome that victim mentality and that the things you're struggling with personally, man, you can make a difference. And look at the people in human history that have made a difference. They're the ones who have overcome those challenges. They bring people together. That's what they do. They bring people, not just a tiny little clique, but they bring everyone together under this umbrella of like, we're humans, man. We're gonna get through this together. After natural tragedies, people coming in and helping other people, right? I don't give a crap about you fighting over whether or not you like a book or not on Twitter when people are, fighting for their lives in a natural flood. You know what I'm saying? It's just there's such a disconnect there, I think, nowadays. And I don't, I mean, I understand it, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like,
I think we're
it's hard to
both.
see.
I think it's because a lot of us are both blessed and cursed with abundance
Yes.
to
Yeah.
the point that we don't know what the hell to do for it. We take it all for granted.
Yeah.
Like even
100%.
in the comic space of things, there's so many comics. There's so many.
Yeah.
You couldn't possibly read them all in your entire life even if that's all you did.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how to quantify that. I don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
And you can look at that with everything. Like we're told there's a scarcity issue with everything all the time. Yet meanwhile, I've got, I don't know, 10 grocery stores within a 5-mile radius, and they are stocked to the nines with any kind of food I could possibly want, to the point that they have food that they've declared is a day or two past its freshness date, and we have to get rid of this and clear it out. And so it's discounted, and then eventually it's going to get thrown out. And Lord knows how many tons of food get thrown out just from those 5 grocery stores, or 10 grocery stores, I should say, within that 5-mile radius.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine across the whole country, let alone across the whole world. But yet we're told every single minute of every single day that there's a scarcity issue with food.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a constant weird thing where, you don't believe your lying eyes.
Exactly.
So it's so strange that we have this, and I feel like it constantly plays tricks on us. Like when we start to question our own reality, and we start to question the reality around us and the reality for other people, and it puts you in a weird headspace. And social media and the internet is both amazing and horrifying, because I feel like it's giving us the godlike omniscience without the godlike omnipotence
and accountability.
because so we know everything that's going on whenever we want. We can know anything that's happening anywhere, just about.
Yeah.
We can't do a damn thing
Completely.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I saw a comment from Ben Spar. He said, for professional creative, social media is a necessary evil. And I would agree, but at the same time, I would say it doesn't have to be the evil. You know what I'm saying? And I know he's not saying that, but I'm saying in the sense of like, create the community you want to be a part of. Like, create that, for yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's you can create a community look at Michael Bancroft, right? Look at you, look at Rainey, look at these guys. They've created communities around people who just love comics and want to have a good time. And they've created a community they want to be a part of. And they're doing decent. I mean, in the space, right? Much better than 90% of the rest of the indie space, who can barely make a book, and get it out. So I think that ultimately it comes down to I think, and I struggle with this, and I mentioned I just got back into the social media things with Bancroft's stream a couple months ago, and creating content like for all the Turner videos, and I'm just trying to get back into it. I'm trying to figure out who I once was. I have to get back to that. I used to be a much different person. I lost myself for a while, and I'm trying to find that again. And that imposter syndrome, it definitely is a struggle. Like I've got to sit there in front of the screen and be like, no, it's okay to be okay. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to get in there. Right. But I feel like, we as humans, man, we just got to learn how to connect with other people We got to learn how to build the communities that we want to be a part of, and ignore the stuff you don't want to. And I would say you don't have to hate it, man. You don't have to hate anything. It's okay. I get it. I get it. I get it, man. I get that there are things in our life we get annoyed with. I get annoyed with crap all the time. I'm human. It's like, oh,
I've gone past the phase of hating something into like I just straight up mourn now.
yeah. Yeah. You're just like, oh no, oh no.
Like I'll see something. It could be as dumb as a commercial, and there's so many of them. Because I watch a lot of streaming when we do watch anything. I don't have cable, but so we'll get streaming, and oftentimes it'll be the same commercials over and over in the same cycle.
Yeah.
And me and my wife will just be like, remember when commercials like kind of tried to even convey a feeling?
Oh goodness, man.
Or try to sell you something.
Yeah.
There's so many commercials now that they just pop up and you go, what was that even for?
Yeah. Oh my word.
Or there's no audio on it. It's just like a song. It's just and you're like, the hell is this? Yeah. So if you're not watching the TV, you don't even know visually what they're doing. But back in the day, you could have at least just listened to it and you'd hear what that was about. So like we've both gone straight into like, what has happened?
Yeah.
What's going on?
That's what my wife and I, we look at each other all the time, and we kind of rate. It's funny you mentioned that. We kind of rate, commercials, and we'll be like, "Oh, that was actually a good one. Wow, that was what the heck." That was for glasses. Why the heck did I not see glasses the whole time the last second? And it didn't make any sense why you put him on. He was in a room. Like it was like it's the logic. It's like what the heck's going on? But no, I agree 100%. I think we got to this weird place of like wanting to like make bad stuff because for some reason we were making decent stuff for so long that bad stuff became the non-norm and fun, and now we're just all bad.
Yeah, I think it's because we're hitting this weird postmodernist nihilism, culturally, and we're just stuck there. And I think we're also kind of stuck there because it's sort of aptly named where you have modernism and then postmodernism, and then it just seems like there's nothing else ever again. Because now you're stuck in postmodernism. Because once you start navel gazing on that level, that's it. You're oblivious to your own self-awareness, which has now become unironic, which is what makes the whole thing completely depressing and utterly pointless at the same time. Because if all you are is concerned about yourself and how you feel about everything, you never think past that, and you never think to actually go, well, like what you talked about when you just go to someone, hey, you okay, man? Like that kind of a thing, because you're like, well, I don't really care if they're okay. I just care that they're making me feel not okay. And we got to that point culturally, and all of our storytelling for the most part, is like that, which before storytelling would kind of reveal something with the characters that made you think about something about yourself, how you felt about it, how would you behave if you were them, all these kinds of things. That's the true representation within storytelling. And then it turned into superficial representation, and then it turned into ironic / unironic ways to interpret this kind of representation. And then now it's become this whole thing where you just look at it and go, I don't even know, is that a story? It's so there's so much propaganda in a lot of it where it's telling you what to think, how to behave based on emulation. Like you're seeing these people behave and talk this way and act this way on screen, so you must behave and be that way too to be accepted. And if that thing is popular, you're going to want to be like that.
Yeah.
And
no, I agree 100%.
That's what's made it so weird, is that every single thing feels like it's given into that instead of, and it's, I don't know how we get out of it other than it being a ground up effort. But that's the problem, is that there's so many things that are so big. There's so many companies at this point that are so large that they squash that stuff every second they get. But then we get this kind of stuff. We get like this. That's what I love so much about a lot of this, the indie space of people having their viewpoints out there and everything else. And I hope we continue to have this kind of a thing. I know there's been some kind of censorship and some kind of whatever, here or there with YouTube or whatever. But by and large, most people that have something they want to say, you can broadcast that whenever you want. We didn't have that a while ago, even a little bit ago.
Yeah.
So that I feel is what's really the unifier. It's making us all go, oh. It reminds me of the early days of social media when you start discovering, oh, we're not all as different as they say that we are. That's
Yep.
weird. And it felt like one big party, social media.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I don't know, I get very conspiratorial with this stuff. It feels like the powers that be were like, look, they're getting along
Too well.
Too well. They're starting to learn that they probably don't need to hate each other.
They're becoming self-aware.
And they're starting to behave as if maybe they don't really need us.
Yes. Oh yeah. I'm right there with you. I am 100% with you. I agree. I truly believe that. And it's sad because people buy into it, man. But they don't have to for their whole life. They can, hopefully there are people out there that show them that humanity is stronger than anything else. Being human and helping and loving and caring for each other is so much stronger and will go so much further than it's so much stronger than anything else, man. I don't know. And I'm not like this like peace and love, man. Like I don't know. I don't know. I'm not that kind of guy, more or less, but I think we need that. Like I truly believe we need that.
Well, I mean, you seem like I don't know you much past this conversation. Everything else I know is of a superficial level on social media and your videos and whatnot. But you seem like someone who is trying to do the best thing that you possibly could do, and that's to focus on the things you can actually control, which is largely how you behave, think, and act.
Yes.
And that's a really important thing, because I think a lot of people, the reason that they're probably stuck in such a state of either victimhood or despair or whatever it may be is because they've lost the feeling that they can actually do something about their life. They've lost that sense of control. And being plugged in, like the people who are terminally online, especially, where like the algorithm will feed you all day long what to think. And this is what you like now, this is what you think now, this is how it is. And it's designed to do that because they want you to stay there and they want you to get sucked into it, and that's what brings them revenue. But for people who are in that state of mind, it feels like they just surrendered their control and go, that's it. Just that's it's almost like a drug. It's like an addiction. But yeah, it really is like you gotta focus on what you can actually do. And it looks like you're doing that, and that you've got that perspective, unfortunately, because of the stuff you've gone through in your life.
Well, you realize how much you aren't in control of.
But but it's fortunate that you have gained that perspective, because like you said, there's a darker path, and a lot of people do go down that.
Yeah, it's sad, but I'm a true believer, because I know I was down that path, and I was at the lowest you can be as a human, and I was, thankfully, I was able to come out of that. And like that's why comics are great. I love comics. And it was funny because I was talking to my wife. I was like, I'm going on the stream, and I don't know why, but I'm not even really thinking about my book or anything right now. I'm only thinking about how I can some of the things I've just gone through in the past couple of years, and how I might be able to help somebody today. I don't know why, but that was just kind of where I was at.
I mean, honestly, though, that's something that I'm trying to really drill through a lot of creators, especially when they come here. I'm like, we're going to talk about your book. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to spend an hour and a half just doing an infomercial. I don't
that good.
I don't like doing that. For me, I get more tangential. Even like yesterday, I'm like, okay, now I got to jump around to this next thing, and because I don't want to just sit there and let's just look at the campaign the whole time and sell. It feels weird, and it's boring. So if it's boring for me, being the person that has to do the selling or being the host, I can't imagine how it is for the viewer. But what I like, and what I think a lot of people like, is kind of the stuff we're talking about, because that's how you get to know somebody. Yeah, you can show some pictures of your work. To be perfectly honest, most people are probably like me. Like when I get a submission, I know within honestly one panel if I want to continue even reading.
Mm-hmm.
One panel. And I think most people are the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to know very, very quickly. It's kind of like when you meet someone and if you're attracted to them or not.
Mm-hmm.
Instantly.
First impressions, man.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You get like within like milliseconds make up all these tiny little judgments about someone
Mm-hmm.
that are either going to be reinforced by what they do or they're going to be broken and we're going to be more intrigued or more
Mm-hmm.
turned off.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's the same way
100%.
with a comic. It's the same way with anything. So, most people don't really need to sit there for an hour and be lectured about what their comic is and what it looks like and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But what
I
they
agree.
really would like to know is, well, who the hell is this person that's making this comic?
Yeah, I think the most successful people in this space right now, if you look at them, whether it is drama, whether it's a community like Bancroft and these other guys have built, their most successful people in the indie space are people who have who are genuine and even genuine and outright, even if they're in the drama space. Hey, I'm having fun with this. We're doing drama. At the end of the day, people are drawn in by people who are just out there, man. And again, the most successful people in the space right now that I'm seeing, they've created communities. And I'm telling you, it's great to have the creator and a good book, because a lot of times you have creators and really bad books. But the funny thing is, these people will sell so many books because people don't care about the book at all. I've learned this. There are most people will back a book based on quality, but if you get into a community space and you like the people and you're talking whatever, probably won't even know what the book is about, and you're going to back it because you care about being involved in the community in that space. I for one, I want to create something in the near future that's both, where we can have a good time. I had this really fun idea of like literally create a community created comic where I do a live stream. Hey, we are going to do a horror comic book together. What are the names? What is the premise? What do you want to see? And throw up polls during the live stream. And by the end of the year, we have a book, like it's kind of like an anthology, but we're doing it as a community. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's kind of fun stuff I'm thinking about.
That's awesome, but man, you're a brave soul.
Dude, my wife is like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "I'm not committing to it, but I'm saying it might be something."
You'll get that one person that's like, "Look, I think I created that character. I think I should get some royalties for that. Can we talk about rights ownership here?
Oh my gosh. I have to have everyone sign a waiver before they join.
Right? Yeah. Radio Stories Now. Wow. Thank you so much. 1999 for the super chat. Says Sheba dog in samurai armor holding a golden trophy. Is that an explanation of like an emoji? Or is that just either way? I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. But yeah, these are the kinds of conversations that I like to have because it gives people an opportunity. Whoever watches, they get to walk away going, yeah, I know a little bit more about that guy. And because of that, I want to check out what they're doing. And maybe, there's sometimes people who come on and they're like, I know a little bit more and I don't know if I want to check it out. But that's at least it's a better, or at least as good of an informed decision as you could get.
Yeah.
But that's where I find there's a lot of indie creators that don't understand where it's about like brand trust whenever you purchase something. Like, why do you continually purchase certain things that you get? Why do you get like this certain brand of food, or you go to a certain restaurant over and over again, or whatever it may be, or you like a certain sports team or whatever? There's trust built into it. And the reason that you trust something that's made from a corporation is because they've delivered what you would assess to be a quality product or experience time and time again.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're an indie creator, unfortunately, you don't have decades. You don't have millions or billions. So what you have is yourself. You have yourself and the time that you can give. And that's how you build that trust. And I think creators that don't understand that are doing themselves such a disservice, because it's not about you prostituting yourself. It's not about you being an egomaniac. And although there are some people who behave like that, that's not what it's about. It's just about bringing a connection to
100%. Yeah.
what you're creating.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. 100%. I couldn't agree more, man. I think you need that connection. That's the bridge. That's the bridge that ties everything together. So yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Now, before we do, how much time do you have? I want to be
Yeah. I got
respectful of it.
no. I've got as much time as you got, man.
Okay. So, I got a couple questions for you, and I also want to circle back into the chat because there was a good question or two from a couple people here.
Okay.
So at least another 20 or so minutes. Is that okay?
Sounds perfect. Yeah.
All right. So, before I have a question for you, I'm going to read a question from chat, which is basically one of my questions. So let's see here. Comics for Life, who always has good questions, says, "Is there a comic book series or story that possibly helped you keep positive at that trying moment?" So I guess my question would have been: you've been through a lot of stuff. It's given you a lot of different perspectives, and you've kind of had this roller coaster of a life, more or less. Uh, what kind of stories or characters have you looked to for inspiration, or have helped you through a rough spot?
That is a good question. I would say it would be more people than characters. I mean, like going back to the Don Bluth, those stories really resonated with me, and the characters in them, and how they went through those trials, and especially together, especially in Land Before Time. But when it comes to those types of stories, I would say there's not a lot of those out there, really. So I look to people look at like Keanu Reeves. I don't know if you know about his backstory, but he's been through some tragic things in his past and his life. I look to people who have gone through really hard times and have come out of it stronger, and those are the people that are encouraging to me, because if I can see that I can do it as well, and I want to be that for people as well. So I would say, to answer that question, I can't think of a particular story. I really looked inward, I guess you would say. I looked inward and just took from, Michael Jordan, all these other characters that I grew up on, that, they've had trying past, or they pushed past failure to be successful. So I really think I looked at people more than stories and characters.
That's acceptable. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't. I can't think of the top of my head of like a character like Anakin. Like, I don't know, Anakin. In Star Wars really resonated with me. Somebody who was good, who turned evil, who turned good again. Like, he's a huge inspiration for actually one of the books I'm writing. It's just the ability of redemption. I mean, we all need, in one way or shape or form, to be able to find that redemption, even if it's in the last seconds of your life. Like, we have to be, I'm not saying accept evil or bad. I'm saying we have to have an open heart to forgiveness and understanding that people fail all the time. And, just hope that we can do better and they can do better. So,
Um, a little bit of a follow up. It doesn't really pertain to the positive aspects and stuff like that, but growing up, or at least maybe even now, do you have any favorite comic book characters or anything like that? Any kind of specific titles or whatever that you really enjoy?
mm, so I got into the indie space. I don't know if you know my history in comics. So I didn't know anything about mainstream. I was introduced into comics just because I had my writings and stuff in my phone and on a notepad. And I found, it's funny, Tyler Carpenter. I don't know if you know how to draw comics, what is it? Not how to draw comics, draw and talk. So I was looking up like how to make a comic book, and he had a script up like from 6 years ago. And that's how I got into comics, was literally, oh, this is how you write a comic book script. I have these stories. I got into it. So when I got into the indie space, I've only been really in the indie space, which is probably kind of taboo because, most people come from the mainstream background. And I'm gonna be honest, I've been in the space for a long time. There are a few creators like Kate, like I can't remember his last name. But there's a guy named Caleb, and there's a few creators that have really heartfelt stories. Oh, Jeff Morris. I don't know if you know about Jeff Morris. He does really meaningful comics, and this is where I enjoy seeing creators put their money where their mouth is. He he had a tragedy happen, and this is a beautiful thing about comics, but he had a tragedy happen where his dad had a heart attack right in front of him when he was a kid, and he felt like he couldn't get to the phone and call the emergency hotline quick enough to save his dad, and that affected him as a kid growing up. And he got into comics, and he wrote a beautiful story. It's called True Believers, and he has actually started a school to help kids work through their trauma through comics, through creating comics, right?
Wow.
That's amazing to me. That's someone who truly believes in comics and loves them for what they are and sees how they can help people. So I don't even remember the original question, but but yeah. Anyway.
It was just about favorite comics or character.
So I would say I haven't found a lot in the space that I resonate with, and that might turn a lot of people off. I struggle with finding characters in the indie space that I like you said, I feel the emotions with them. Like I feel for them, like not, the emotions with them. And so and that's a personal preference because, comics, if you look at then they don't really have that the whole time. There's a lot of action and fighting and people love that. I like that too, but I have to be able to connect with the character. I have to be able to connect with the story. And there are not a lot of comics in the, 5 or 6 years in the indie space that I've truly been able to connect with in that way. And
what about in the mainstream?
Mainstream, I like Twig. I don't know if you read Twig.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
It's a fun one. I mean, like I like characters like that. I like him because he's a character that he wasn't the hero, but if he wasn't there, the hero would have never been able to save the world. You know what I'm saying? They're like, I connected with him, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. I connect with those type of stories where there's so much deeper meaning in it, and I don't find that a lot, and that's okay because it's perfectly okay to like a beat 'em up comic just because you're fighting. I think that's awesome. It's a personal preference. So for me, not a lot of people write that I have found in this space. So King Cryptid. You want to know why I like King Cryptid?
Why?
Because he heals. He cares for animals, and you would literally be like, oh, okay, like, but he's saving the world from all these cryptids, blah blah blah. But that right there alone, that resonated with me so much as somebody who loves animals that I was like, man, I love this character. You see what I'm saying? I just one little thing, he heals in issue 2, he's healing the dog that was hit by the car, and I was like, I'm hooked. Like because of this scene, I know who he is as a character now, and I want to keep following this character. And then he saves a bear, and I'm a hunter, I'm a fisherman, I'm a conservationist as well. But I love animals. I have a respect for them. And when I read that in issue 2, I was like, I was 100% in after that. And I don't know. Anyways, that's how I connect with characters when I read. So it's hard because I have not found that a lot in the comic book space. It's a lot of storytelling, which is great, but it's not a lot of connection. I don't know. I struggle. Maybe it's a personal thing, and I'm willing to admit that if it is, but I struggled to connect with a lot of characters.
No, I think that's valid. I've said this before, maybe only once or twice, but contrary to revisionist history, most comics that have been made, regardless whether indie, mainstream, whatever, are pretty bad. They're pretty bad.
It's rough.
And the reason I say this is that just even think about like your favorite creators in comics, or think about your favorite series or whatever, and a long running series.
Mhm.
So, like a Batman or a Spider-Man or a Detective Comics or whatever. And then think about the issues that really stuck with you, that you're like, that was great. And you're probably going to struggle to fill more than, what you can count on both fingers, on both hands.
I agree.
And meanwhile, though, you're talking about hundreds, thousands of issues.
Yeah.
Maybe a creator that's done a lot of stuff their whole life. Like I love Chris Claremont and a lot of his writing. But if I got to say like the really like great stuff that sticks with me when I think about what stories he's made, maybe 8, 9, 10 That's about it out of all
Mhm.
of the stuff I've read of his. So the vast majority, they're kind of bad.
Yeah.
Then there's a bunch that they're okay. They're pretty
Mhm.
good. And then there's very, very few that they're great.
Yeah.
And everything is kind of like that, whether you think of like a musician with their catalog or whatever it is.
That's the beauty of
Actors with the
indie,
stuff they've done,
though.
But yeah. So that's it's like I said before, it's like the same thing with like the whole "if it ain't woke, don't fix it" kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
just because it's not woke doesn't mean that it's going to be automatically good. So just because like if the mainstream stinks right now, just because it's indie doesn't mean it's better than the mainstream, and vice versa, and everything else. Like you have to have an actual set of criteria that you can use to determine am I effectively telling this story in the best way that I possibly can? And the only way that you can ever build that criteria is through experience. Through
Yeah.
experience and being honest with yourself about not just what others are doing and how you enjoy it and perceive it, but also with what you're doing.
100%. Yeah. You have to be critical of yourself. Like you can't. There's that phrase: "Get the log out of your own eye before you judge somebody else." It's at
Yeah.
the end of the day, work on yourself, and I'm telling you, man, you'll be able to help other people too. Like if you work on yourself, you're gonna help other people as well. And I think that should be our ultimate goal. But yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's I'm in that weird space because I haven't found a lot. But there's also like we were just talking, like there's also good stories though. Like not, and I don't have to be connected to a character. Like I like Bancroft's story. I like the Lucid. It's story driven. You're right in it. You got action. You feel like you're going through Paris with the character. There's these little twists and turns in it. I wasn't really connected to the character in that story, but I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it, right? So there's
Yeah.
stories like that, and then you got Rainey, she's building her own world and universe, and you can see some of the conflicts in the characters, and sometimes you have to give them time too. There are some where you just have to give them time to see that one moment where you're like, okay, now I connect with the story.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing is it's not necessarily a rule. It's just something that more or less is a good starting point. The
Mhm.
shorter a story is, the more important the plot is,
Yeah.
because that's what you're really going to connect with. The longer it is, the more that series is drawn out. If it's an ongoing, that's when you really got to make sure you're developing characters, because you can have great plots in a really long series, but if no one cares about the characters that are going through that plot, or the
Mhm.
character that's leading that series, or the characters that are in that series, then no one's going to stick with that series to find out all your great plots that you've created.
Yeah.
It's kind of like being on a road trip with someone
Yeah.
that just annoys the crap out of you, or they don't talk at all.
Yeah.
What a weird road trip that's going to be.
It's weird. I don't know, man. It's weird. I don't know. I like fun comics. Like I think we lost that a little bit too in the indie space. Like you were talking about earlier, where people are pushing their own personal beliefs and whatnot and something rather than just having fun with the story. I like comedy and stories. I don't know if you've heard of Garrett Gunn. He does a lot of like Source Press comics. He was with them. He does some fun stories over there. So there is definitely different aspects of stories that resonate with people, but they
Yeah.
have to hit in their own way too. Like I'm not an only I have to connect with a story or I don't like it, but they have to they naturally have to feel good when you're reading them. They have to flow. That's a huge thing. Flow. They got to flow. Don't take me out of the
Absolutely.
art. Don't take me out because the lettering all of a sudden just was weird and wordy for no reason.
Well, what I love too is when someone does put in their beliefs, their point of view, whatever, into the story, because I think you kind of can't help but impart some of that. You
Mhm.
can't
I
you
agree.
can't it's one thing to create a total complete self-insert,
Mhm.
and most people, when they do that, the character is infallible and amazing and the best ever. It's like a stroking the ego sort of thing. But people are going to put in their perspective on the world, and you want that. I don't want to
I
discourage
I
that,
did it. I
but
did it. Yeah.
I like it when people can do that, and they're aware enough of how to play off other characters
Mhm.
that can also point out that character's flaw, or
Mhm.
maybe present a different perspective on an issue, and
Mhm.
whether or not they believe that that character's correct or not, it provides a more well-rounded scope on a situation, and then it doesn't just feel like they're berating or
Yeah.
they're giving you some kind of propaganda of how to think, because they're presenting multiple viewpoints of how something is being dealt with right now.
Yeah, 102 views. You're giving you're giving the reader the opportunity to question the situation. You're giving them the opportunity to look at a situation and see this side and ask questions, and see this side and ask questions for themselves. You're not telling them that it needs to be that way. You're not telling them it needs to be that way. You're letting them look at it and have that own discourse with themselves. I
Exactly.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's great stuff. That's what I used to love so much about X-Men comics that would have Wolverine and Nightcrawler.
Mhm.
I love that
I love
interaction that they
Nightcrawler,
would
dude.
have.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love Nightcrawler, and I love those because they have that weird, quirky relationship back and forth, but you got that
Yeah.
little bit of heart in there,
Yep.
and you're like, you can feel it, you can feel the heart, but man, they really
Yeah.
rip on
And
each
it and
other.
it and it goes to what you were talking about earlier, which is respect.
Yes.
So you can be diametrically on opposite sides there, and just, but you can still have this respect, and that will help you find common ground. If
Mhm.
you don't have the respect, you might as well just go, okay, peace out, see ya,
Exactly.
because you're never going to reach common ground, and
Yeah.
all you're going to do is just try to kill each other,
Yeah.
and no one's going to benefit from that.
Mm.
Jefferson Roswell says, I backed the library option to check
Oh,
out
heck
all the
yeah, man.
stories. There you go.
Heck yeah. Thank you, man. Thank
And
you.
a big thanks to those tonight, especially Cole King, putting up the link there for everybody to go check
Mm.
out that book. It's pinned to the top of the chat as well. It should be anyway.
Thank you.
And thank you, Radio Stories Now says, I love King Cryptid.
Heck yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see. Cole says, I think we actually need more indie comics that focus on just being entertaining. Yeah. We need, oh man. Yeah, I'm not even going to add to that. You said it. Comics for Life says, have you ever taken a story that you didn't connect to, but it inspired you to write your own take on that story?
Mm. That's a
That's a very specific question.
yeah, that is a very specific question, 'cause I gotta think about the story first and think about if I did. I cannot think of one off the top of my head, mainly because I just disconnect from it right away, and I just go do my own thing. It's like, so squirrel. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like, even when I was a kid and I would read, I was mostly reading Marvel when I was a kid, but I wanted to create comics, but I wanted to create characters that worked with the characters that already existed. I
Mhm.
didn't want to give my own take on the character. I didn't want to change Wolverine or Spider-Man or whoever.
Yeah.
Like, to me, they were real people. They were
Yeah.
established. That's
Yeah.
how they were. That's what their personality was. That's what their history was. But I wanted to create characters that interacted with the established characters.
Mhm.
And then eventually that evolved into, I never worked for the mainstream, and I never really had the inkling to do that past the age of, I don't know, maybe 18 or 19. And then I just went indie the whole way, making my own stories. But that's always where I was when I was a kid with that stuff. It wasn't ever about, oh, I can't wait, I want to make my own. What if Spider-Man was like this instead, or what?
They're doing that now.
Yeah.
They're doing it all over the place from what I'm seeing. So some people like it, some people hate it.
Yeah, I find it's such a weird approach,
Mhm.
because even if it works, you could have just made a different character and just left that character alone. Eventually, you lose the specialness of what makes that character that way.
Who is
Like
he?
if,
His
yeah,
identity. His identity's gone at that point. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's a really precarious position, because that's what you really have here when you're dealing with fictional characters you want people to care about. It's like the trust issue of purchasing something from an indie creator.
Mhm.
If all of a sudden you don't have any kind of consistency anymore with your behavior or your approach or your storytelling capabilities, you're going to lose a lot of that trust with the readership that you built up.
Yeah.
And it's like that way when you make a character. If all of a sudden that character is, and it's not a storytelling thing. It's not like someone comes in and puts a spell on King Cryptid or whatever, and now he's all, or wingless all of a sudden, Astro sprouts wings,
Mhm.
and you're like, that's how it is now.
That I
And you're like,
struggle
well,
with that. It's funny.
that's
That's so funny you say that, because that's such a real thought. That's like, but then I changed his whole character. It's like,
Yeah.
no.
So you got to be like, okay, do I do that? And can I come up with a reason to play with that story and then
Mhm.
revert it back? Which is, it's always, that's a comic book thing.
Mhm.
Here's a crazy situation that happens, or some kind of mind control, some kind of magic, some kind of experiment, whatever. And then, they're like this right now, which is totally out of character. And they work towards a solution to get them back to normal again.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it lets you still play with that fun what
Mhm.
if scenario, but you don't need to commit to it and completely disgrace everything you did
You're
previously.
speaking my language, man. It's almost like you're looking into the future or something. I don't know. Yeah, I've struggled with that. It was funny because I was with my family and my brother-in-law was like, "Well, are you gonna give him wings eventually?" Because there's a serum called phase serum in the series, and it's a big deal. It was made by humans, and there are going to be humans throughout the series that are introduced. But it gives the person who injects it 3 different abilities, and they're randomized. And It depends on if you live past the first ability, if you get your second one, and if you live past getting your second one, you'll get your third one. Well, ultimately, if you get all 3 powers, you're probably a very powerful creature, human, whatever you are. The whole idea in issue 1 is Crowbar accidentally stumbles upon Phase, and he takes it. And his backstory, there's a reason why he is trying to attack Central, which we'll get into later in the series. But he takes it and he gets the power of mind control, right? So I was like, man, if I was in that family setting, he's like, well, are you gonna have Astro drink that at some point, and then he's gonna get wings? And then my nephew, first thing, well, why would it be called Wingless? And I cracked up because I was like, well, yeah, that's the base premise. Why would I take away from the whole point of the character? But it is an awesome idea, and I do have it written in spoilers and somewhere in the series, whether or not I will do it or not. I do have it written in something along those lines where he may or may not get them, but they'll be taken away. But with that comes a lesson, right? So you get something, and whether or not you get that and you actually want it, or
Yeah.
you realize that who you are as a person is because you never had it in the first place. So there's those aspects that I want to work through in the series because I personally, I had all this plastic surgery on my face, and whether or not if I did not have this, I would not be the person I am today. I wouldn't have been made fun of in school. I wouldn't have been, I wouldn't have gone through the trials and the surgeries and all this stuff, and I would not be who I am today. I'm actually afraid of who I would
Or
be.
would you be, wouldn't be the grass is greener, maybe it'd be something else. Maybe they pick on
Yeah.
something else about
Oh,
you, you
exactly.
know.
And so that's where I come from with this is there's a day in your life where you accept it, and but you don't just accept it. You realize how it has been good for you. You can look at it and say, what is the good in this, and how can I use that in my life to be a better person and help others, So that's Astro's gonna deal with those things throughout his story. And I'm excited to bring those. Like you said, you give the perspective to the reader. They can look at it and go, "Oh, whoa, yeah, I would have thought he would have really wanted those, but he actually realized it wasn't worth it," kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, that stuff is always great. That's what I love. I love seeing characters go through something and come out of it better, worse, little, whatever it is. There's consequences for them going through that.
yes,
And
yeah,
that's what I think makes ongoing series type storytelling, or just even serialized storytelling so powerful, is that ability to carry over events, have that continuity.
yes, yep,
But
yeah.
so here you got Wingless Foul Play. Which book is this in the order of the
This is issue
series?
2.
Okay.
Wingless, Born Different. I have a name for each one. I don't know why. I like it. I don't know. That's so I did it. So Wingless, Born Different was issue 1. Wingless Foul Play is issue 2. Then we have a Wingless 3, which will be the Gray, and then we have Wingless 4, which is going to be that's going to be Fight or Flight. I won't go into all of them, but anyways, I have a name for each one, and it will be numerically ordered. I will have those on the final cover. I think some of them have them. Well, you'll be able to tell if it's issue 1 or 2. It's just going to have a different subtitle underneath it. So
Very nice, man. So you got 67 backers. You got 6 days to go. Is this going into some kind of in demand or late pledges sort of scenario?
nope, I don't have that turned on for this one. A few reasons. My wife is due next week, so we are having our second child, and I know
Oh,
that.
congrats.
Thank you very much. Yeah, but like I said, it's been a pretty phenomenal year, very big change. But so I know that, and I know I can fulfill what I have on this campaign, and I don't want to have to worry about the taking on fatherhood again and worrying about also being able to give the people who back that support and what they need. You know what I'm saying? So I want to be able to get this book out. I know I can. I've done it multiple times in the past, but I want to get this book out and then do more in the future. It's just kind of where I'm at in the stage of life that kind of caused me not to turn that on.
All right, very nice. Well, you've got control over the
Oh, okay.
Kickstarter here, so
That's
if you
right.
want to scroll through it,
Okay.
show
Yeah,
anything off, feel free.
we'll do a quick roll through. Have you watched the trailer?
No, I haven't.
Oh
I actually
goodness.
don't watch any trailers.
Is it because you think they're bad usually, or you just don't want to know what's in the book?
A lot of it's a little bit of both. A lot of trailers for me, it turns into like an oversell,
Okay.
and
Okay.
it's like even motion comics and stuff like that. Like I can say, oh yeah, that's a real cool trailer, but it's not the comic. You
Okay.
know what I mean? So, but if you want to show off the trailer, because there's people who like the trailer, I'm fine with you showing off the trailer.
Okay.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying personally, I don't really ever
It's
look at
only a
the
minute
trailer.
and a half or so, I think. I hired a few voice actors for no AI. I wanted the real touch on this, and it's funny you said that because this is voiced like line by line what you'll see in the actual first preview pages.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
I don't know. Do I need to share audio or is it automatically shared?
If you shared the tab, it
Okay,
should
I
be
am on the tab, so I'll play it real
automatic.
quick. You just let me know.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
What happened here?
I'll take a sec.
Don't worry, sir.
You can maximize
I
it.
only told him where Rakeen is. Told who, Beck? It was Grayson's son. He's alive. Impossible. I watched him fall from the tree that night. If the boy did survive, there's only one Val I know who could train him to fight like his father. Drink. Soon, phase 2 will begin. But first, we have loose ends to destroy.
Say it hurts to live this way. I don't mind the pain, and I like to feel the shame of it.
All royalty free music. I pay for that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Sometimes I show these and then I'm like, oh, my stream just got struck. That sucks.
No, yeah, I use Artlist.io, all my stuff, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you have actual singers? That's got to be." No, it's actually done through. I pay for all that stuff. So, but that was the trailer.
Very nice.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So we'll go through it real quick. This is the main cover, Wingless Foul Play. And there's something going on down here, which you'll see in the story. Because this expands outside of just the animal universe, and it's going to expand across the human race. So I'm excited to kind of introduce that in issue 2. The story follows Astro. So in issue 1, his parents, he's born without wings. Something tragic happens to his parents, and now we leave off on a cliffhanger in issue 1. But honestly, if there's an issue 2 with his face all over it, you're gonna know he lived. So we're in issue 2 now. Foul Play follows Astro, whose pursuit of his parents' killers draws him down a dark path where vengeance threatens to consume him. As he prepares to confront his first target, Astro uncovers disturbing truths about his father's past that may be connected to his family's death. Meanwhile, a series of mysterious disappearances in Central Park hints at a more sinister plan, one that could change the human race forever. So a little overview of issue 2. We have some preview pages here. You guys can, work through that and look at them. Astro may have gone a little bit too far in his pursuit of finding who took his parents from him. And then we have our first introduction of Dante, who is our back character. And I left this up to I didn't want to give away too much about his character and whether or not he's good or evil or not, or if he's in between. So you kind of got to read through this and think for yourself whether or not he is good or evil, between their banter and their back and forth. So we have more pages than this completed. I think we are at, it's a 24-page book. We have 12 pages completely colored, lettered, and then we have the whole rest of the book inked. So all we need for the other 12 pages is colors and lettering, and the book is completed. So the cost, the money we raise from this will go towards the completion of that and the fulfillment. Covers, we got Wingless Foul Play, the one we went over. This one was done by, and by the way, this was done by the interior artist as well. So this is the art that you're going to see inside the book. I'm really big on the main covers being done by the interior artist and the colorist as well. So
yeah, same here. Yep.
So Wingless Foul Play, we have a variant cover. This was done by Ruben Mosho, who's done quite a few books with me in the past. And I don't know, this is kind of like a foreshadowing of some things that might happen in the future. Had a lot of fun with this. And then we have, this is done by Matt Ratliff. This is our Crowbar cover. And I wanted to be very specific with the all-inclusive one with every character. And then kind of like your special editions, which are character based. So we have Astro, and then we have Crowbar with his little red eye, because, he's got that fun mind control. And a little look at the kid-friendly versions of the book coming. I'm just joking. The book's not going to be, it's not going to be that dark. The darkest it gets is actually, to be honest, the darkest it gets is really up here on this page, which I don't know. I had some back and forth with people. They're like, "Man, you went really dark." I'm like, "Yeah, he did rip off his wings, didn't he?" We don't worry. That's the worst it's going to get. So I'm going to try to do my best to stay away from going that dark again. But anyways, yeah, that's all that. We'll keep going down. I just want to hit on, so we have reviews. I think that's a big thing. These are all reviews from our first issue. Some really good ones in there. You guys can look through that if you want. Rewards, we start at $7 for our digital, and you do get issue 1 and 2 with that PDF, that digital reward. The catch up gets you the physical covers of issue 1, which, by the way, this is going to be printed through Alterna. I've already decided on that. So we're going to print our issue 1 covers through Alterna. It'll be the newsprint comics. I'm working on getting everything prepared at the end for issue 2, and we probably will go through Alterna as well. But if you get the catch up tier, you get both the physical copies and you do get the PDFs. The PDFs come with every single tier past this point. So you will get issue 1 of Wingless, even if you back just the main cover for issue 2. Just so if you didn't want to buy the physical and wanted to save a little bit of money, you will also get issue 1. This is the fun part. So limited edition covers, we already looked at the Astro one, but as you can see here, Astro's cape is included, and it's going to be, these are going to be handmade by my wife and I. I wanted to include something in this edition that was inside of the story, right? So Astro's mother made him almost like a stork type blanket so she could carry him around in Central Park. He doesn't have wings, so his mom has to get him around somewhere. And in issue 1, it's a big deal because she makes this for him. She carries it around, and then by the end of the issue, you see it on a few pages, and ultimately it plays a big role into his character and who he is. So we're including this. We're going to hand make these, and these are going to come with the limited edition cover. We're only printing 200 of these covers. For the Crowbar cover, we are going to be including the phase serum that we talked about. So this is a fun one. We're ordering these off Amazon. This is so indie, and I actually kind of love it because of that. But my buddy from Bentbox Comics, Chris O'Hara, actually gave me this idea. He's like, "Dude, why don't you do like why don't you give Faye serum? And it's just going to be water with green dye in it, but we're going to put it in a little, flask and send it over. I don't know. I found these on Amazon. He gave me a mock-up sticker that is actually from the book.
Just don't pour those over any pet
Yes.
turtles.
Yes. Oh, I know. Yes. Keep that away from, don't drink them. I mean, I guess you could. They won't hurt you. It's just, it's just green food coloring. But I mean, some people are allergic
Yeah,
to
you
food
might
coloring.
leave something unfortunately bright in the toilet
That is
several
true.
hours later.
Yeah, you'll remember the book later after if you do drink that, and you
You're like,
won't get
honey,
superpowers. You
why
won't
is
get
my
powers.
pee glowing?
I need to put a disclaimer in there. Drink at your own risk. Don't sue me if you freak out and go to the hospital later. But oh man, the things that might happen, who knows? But it's all fun and games. All issue 2 covers, so you get all 3 of the issue 2 covers. You get the standard, the 2 variants, and you get everything that would have been included with the variants as well, like the cape and the serum. And then you can get all covers, meaning you get the physical issue number 1, and then you get the other 3 as well as all the special stuff, including the PDFs. Add-ons. So as we talked about, I've done multiple books. Blossom is the story we talked about that's in memory of my daughter. That's a $5 PDF add-on that you can buy. We have The Last One, which is another one I've written. That's actually a 48-page book. That's a huge book. There's a lot of story in here. This is like a Star Wars meets Harry Potter in space, except for there's a lot more blood and gore and monsters. It's a lot of fun. Of course, I'm being biased, but go read it. Heathen, we kind of talked about this, about the boy who receives the powers of death. Death wants him to do his job as death, but he has a sister who has cancer, so he goes against the grain and disrupts the whole spiritual world. And then we have Worlds Forgotten. This is actually the one that I pitched you in the beginning that's been completely reformatted. We actually have 2 issues of this out now. And we launched this campaign on Bancroft's channel a couple months ago, and I actually ended up canceling that campaign and just giving the PDF out for free, just because of some things at work that were happening in my life that just weren't going to allow me to fulfill that campaign properly at that time. So now that that's all been worked out, that's why we're launching issue 2 of Wingless, because I have full certainty that that's going to get out to everybody. Shipping is your standard shipping. I don't want to cry over that because it's sad how much shipping costs for some of us. And then we have our team, and this is huge. So Veronica Saraceno, she's a Italian artist. She put her heart and soul into this book. The most professional artist I've worked with so far, and I'm proud to say that.
Wow. Yeah, she did a great job.
The reason I picked her is she just drew characters in the background of a story that I saw, and their facial expression, being able to personify that, showed me she could do that for any character she created. And so I knew that in my story where I'm trying to portray emotions, I needed somebody who could do that, and she did that tremendously. So she's worked on some big books too, like Aclophobia, Sidekick for Hire, Pretty Gumdrops, Trickster, and then she did put in Wingless here. So she's worked for some big creators actually. So she's awesome. We have Dan Olvera, colorist, great, very, very professional as well. I like to point out the professionalism of the team because it's hard to find sometimes in the space. These guys, if you guys are ever looking at creating a comic, I would highly recommend this team. And then Justin is the letterer. I picked him because of his fun take on lettering. It wasn't just the status quo of all white bubbles with black words. He really put a lot of fun and emphasis into the letters. So that is the campaign, man.
Very nice, man.
Yeah. I'm excited to get it out to the world. I'll stop sharing this here.
It's the Darker Half asks, do you have a website to grab the previous issues? You can grab them on the campaign, right?
Yep, you can grab them on the campaign. I do have a website up. It is criticalreads.store. So you can go over there. It's a Shopify. And if you buy there, it's all digital right now. I don't have any printed books. All my digitals are on there as well. So you will get emailed the digital PDF if you buy it over there. But again, you can get it on this campaign as part of the digital PDF tier. It is also on Global Comics, and it is published under Bentbox Comics. You can go to his profile over there, and you can read it on there if you have the gold subscription, or you can just read the preview pages. I think there's like 7 to 12 pages or something like that you can read. So it's out there if you want to get a taste for it. And honestly, if you're on here, you want to just send me a message. Sometimes I'll just give the PDF for you to read yourself. Right now, issue 1's been out, right? And I know a lot of people say don't give stuff out for free. I love getting the book out there, man. Again, I just want people to read it. Let me know what they think. So if you shoot me this is my Twitter handle, John Wright Comics, John Writes Comics. Shoot me a message, man. I got the PDF ready to go. If you wanted to take a look into it to see if you want to back issue 2, I have no problem with that.
Very nice. Cole says, what a great interview, John. Brother, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. It's obvious you care deeply about creating art that impacts people in a positive way.
Thank you, man. I really do appreciate that. That means everything to me, because that is truly what I'm trying to do. So,
yeah, no, this was a great conversation, and I hope people enjoyed it. And if you catch it on the replay and you have any questions, you have any comments you want to leave, please feel free to do so. Before we part ways, John, anything you wanted to mention that we didn't get a chance to mention?
No, we covered it all, man. I had a few questions for you. We are not doing it tonight because now I do have to go. But maybe sometime when you have another day, you just don't, you have a downtime, hit me up, man. I had some fun questions for you when it comes to the publishing space and some of the things you've gone through. I was kind of excited to ask just because you've been in this space for so long. So just hit me up whenever you want to do that.
Sure. I mean, do you do interviews on your channel at all?
I haven't started yet. I might do it. I mean, I can definitely set that up for a night and do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, reach out to me when you want to do that, and we'll get a date going.
Heck yeah, man. Sounds good.
All right.
All
right, everybody. Well, thank you guys so much for being here with us tonight. I think you got a couple backers during the course of the show, which is great. And again, if you guys have any questions, comments, leave them in the comment section there on the video. And if you catch this again at a later date, if you're someone watching the replay, thank you guys so much. Everybody in here, if you enjoyed this show, if you enjoy shows like this, please remember to give a thumbs up. And please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss these. I tend to do interviews on Thursdays now. That works best with my schedule as of late. And every now and then I'll do another video here or there. But usually Thursday nights is when I do these interviews. So if you like them, make sure you hit the notifications and whatnot too. Other than that, thank you guys so much again for being here. Please, if you haven't yet, check out Wingless. It's on Kickstarter. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. It's also in the description of the show. And you can also go check out alternatecomics.com for all of your comic book needs as far as that goes. King Cryptid 10 to 13 and Blood Moon. We just launched on Fund My Comic and on Kickstarter yesterday. It's a second chance campaign of sorts, but if you want to get those titles instead on alternatecomics.com, you can do that there. But wherever you want to go is fine by me. That's why we give you guys the option. But until next time, thank you guys again, and I'm glad that you guys really enjoyed the show tonight. All the best to you guys. Have a wonderful night and an even better tomorrow. We'll see you soon.